truth can be another word for God. And for Quakers, it was extremely important. And back in 1615, when Quakers began, they were initially known as the Friends of Truth. So truth has always been an extremely important element of Quakerism. Another important element of Quakerism.
I think you might need to put the microphone up a bit. I don't know. It's
not. Lift it up from the start.
It's not.
It's switched on, right?
We'll just get closer.
Yeah, probably need to be closer.
Right.
Yes, in the end, traditionally we can hear.
It is, yeah.
That is, we cannot do anything about that. Sorry about it, but yeah, it's a bothering backbone.
Another important element of Quakerism, as you probably realise, is silence. We meet in silence, and silence is extremely important for us.
There's nothing actually.
It's still. Sorry, it's still not working.
Sorry, is switch on? Because this needs to be switched on.
It's on, but it's not carrying your voice.
What if I get closer? Is that better? Yeah. We think getting closer is. Oh.
No, this is the volume. The volume was very low. Now it's better?
I think it is.
Yeah.
So silence has always been an important element of Quakerism, and it's where we meet in silence in order to meet the divine. So I would like to start, if you don't mind, with a moment's silence, and then I'll begin to talk. Pope Francis's call for a better kind of politics, one truly at the service of the common good, is timely and essential. Politics should be an activity that allows the integration of human development with justice, peace, and the principle of Ubuntu, that I cannot prosper unless my neighbour prospers. Is this a description of the process we recognise as politics today? Do equality, fairness, and the well-being of our neighbours feature in the interactions we see in our parliament, on our television screens, or in our news or social media? One person, one vote, universal suffrage are principles long fought for, but the number of people who enter into that process is sadly far too low. Why is that? Why have so many people disenfranchised themselves? We hear, there's no point in voting, they're all the same. They're separating themselves from the decisions that affect their and their families' lives. Is that their fault? For many, the confusion of alternate facts and arguments, where quite opposite views are both portrayed as fact, are too much to cope with. Democracy can only exist successfully when its leaders are being honest and practicing integrity. Spin can be just a variation of accent. It becomes unacceptable when it's a lie. After 13 years in government, accusations of dishonesty and failings of integrity are bound to be directed at that particular party. But reminding of ourselves of a little bit earlier than that, weapons of mass destruction, suggest that power, not political opinion, is the main enemy of truth. As Quakers, we play our part, like many other third sector bodies, in pointing out injustice in new bills or failures in standards measured against the noble principles. But where we are most comfortable is in congratulating rather than accusing. Some people enter politics to line their own nests. Many more possibly the majority, want to improve the lives of the communities they represent. They are people who try to operate with honesty and integrity. I do recommend you have a look at the blog of Roger Gale, a very long-standing MP for the constituency that includes Manston, which we've heard of in the news recently. QTIG, Quaker Truth and Integrity Group, are committed to finding such people and supporting them as best we can. We choose to write and appreciate what they are doing. It can be surprisingly effective. We're also exploring an award for an individual who makes a marked impact with their standard of honesty and integrity. Amanda Owen, you would have seen her on TV, Channel 4, the Yorkshire Shepherdess, the one with 9 kids. She talked in one of her programmes about bringing the sheep down from the hillside when the weather threatened them, bringing them to the kinder ground. Well, we like that phrasing, the kinder ground. And we're seeking to offer the kinder ground to writers, politicians, writers and administrators, away from the chill winds of recrimination and accusation, to encourage those who stand for truth and integrity rather than primarily looking for fault. We do need to look at fault to some extent to understand the size of the problem facing democracy, particularly in the UK and the USA. Boris Johnson ambled amiably to the centre of attention, surprisingly or perhaps unsurprisingly, because he had a reputation for loose morals and frequent detours from truth. How could that happen? Would it have happened in 1926, 1956, or even 1986? Had something changed to make the country prepared to accept what he offered? When he and Michael Gove stood beside the Brexit battle bus with a blatant lie painted on its side, that image defined the way that British politics would be practiced for the next 6 years. I would suggest that at that time, many of the British voters accepted the statement not as a finite truth, but as a generalised comment. The accepted commentary was that Europe was controlled by legions of bureaucrats that were stunting Britain's growth and imposing nitpicking rules. Many people, possibly half the country, thought that while Brexit may not make £350 million a week available to the NHS, it would release substantial funds and we would have control. Johnson individually should accept the authorship of many of the lies and misconceptions about Europe, not only within the Brexit referendum, but also as a Telegraph columnist before that. However, his duplicity could only be effective following upon the work of an army of other opinion formers, major among them being sections of the Conservative Party and the Mail and Telegraph news empires. TV vox pops still show that for many, Johnson is, he's not so bad. In their mind, he delivered Brexit and got us through COVID. However long the charge sheet becomes, Johnson's posturings are not only the more obvious of an established pattern of misleading statements from our political leaders. Think of there is no alternative to austerity that depletes social cohesion and rewards the rich. Weapons of mass destruction, we just mentioned, as an excuse for invasion. Regime change that goes on to bring total chaos. Thinking about climate change, which everyone is today, with COP27 going on, you may agree with me is the greatest challenge to the continuity of mankind on this planet. Scientists have recognised the need to move from fossil fuels and prevent further build-up of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. The UK has achieved some leadership amongst the dilettante nations of the Western world. Our government has defined strategies for decreasing carbon in the atmosphere. Are all those strategies as honest as they need them, as we need them to be? They have a strategy, for example, for aviation. It will allow the country to achieve what they call jet zero by 2050. It's a slick term, that, isn't it? The main concern of the strategy appears to be recovering passenger numbers from the setback of COVID. Jet zero, i.e. net zero aviation, will be achieved, according to the policy, by harnessing technologies that have not yet been developed, utilising huge stocks of needed food materials to create biofuels, and just offsetting the carbon of transcontinental flights. In a letter from my MP, one sentence was transparent. It said, "This means we don't have to reduce the amount people fly. Having a strategy cannot be accepted as certain progress towards the changes that we need." Another thing where we are used to buying as a matter of course is budgeting for capital projects. It seems to bear little relation to truth. At the outset, the need is to demonstrate benefit at low cost and minimum inconvenience. By the time it's completed, the job has taken twice as long as was proposed, and it's cost 3 times as much. Each extension to the budget and the time frame becomes news, but there's nothing new about it. It happens every time. Our politicians and the media of the day provide a revolving door for a tiny group of people who manage information and opinion. Many work in Parliament, but many others in lobbying firms, think tanks, and the media. The internet was seen as a way to disturb this comfortable status quo. It allowed ordinary people to provide news feeds, express opinions, tell the truth. But it also allows for lies, conspiracy theory, and group thinking. The people who manage opinion have become expert at using its dark arts. We have to be analytical, research backgrounds, explore what is true and what is manipulation. A politics truly at the service of the common good is a precious thing that will take patience and kindness as well as truth and integrity. It may require moving away from tribalism and the politics of conflict. It may require a movement of people acting in faith and with love. It may need us to move away from our differences, towards unity. Thank you, friends.